Turkey has released an audio recording of the warning it says was given to a Russian fighter jet before it shot the plane down for violating its airspace. But one of the two Russian crewmen who parachuted out of the jet says Turkey gave no warning before opening fire. Rory Challens reports now from Moscow.
Murderers, they chanted. Many Russians are angry with Turkey, and protests have occurred in a few cities in the past hours. This was the Turkish embassy in Moscow. Eggs were thrown, a few arrests made.
This is the embassy of murderers, in my opinion, of people who, instead of being honest and trusted partners, showed their beastly grin.
Tuesday's incident killed a Russian pilot, shot to death by Turkmen rebels whilst parachuting from his burning plane. A Marine involved in the rescue operation also died, and a helicopter was destroyed. But the Russian jet's navigator had a lucky escape.
He was saved, the pilot navigator. I believe he is already at our base. And he's, like all the other involved in the operation, including the rescue operation, will receive state awards. The Ministry of Defense has already come up with this proposal, and the plane commander will be awarded the Star of the Hero of the Russian Federation posthumously.
Later, the navigator appeared on Russian television to give his account.
There's been no warning, neither on the radio nor visually. There had been no contact whatsoever. So we started the combat course as usual. One should keep in mind the speed of a bomber and of a F-16 fighter jet.
This, says Turkey, was the pilot's final warning.
Another Ministry of Defence proposal is being put into action, sending its sophisticated S-400 air defence missile system to Syria. Russia wants to show it has the ability to blow Turkey's planes out of the sky too. The Kremlin has a tricky task here. It says there have to be serious consequences for what Vladimir Putin has called a treacherous stab in the back. But at the same time, Turkey is a NATO member, and that's reason enough to tread carefully. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Russia does not intend to go to war with Turkey, that Russian attitudes to the Turkish people haven't changed. They just have questions about the actions of Turkey's leadership. In Istanbul, Turkey's president defended what its air force has done.
Nobody should expect us to remain silent when our border security is constantly breached. Our legal rights and our right of independence are undermined. We have no intention of escalating this incident. We are only defending our own security and the rights of our brothers.
Turkey wants Russia's air attacks on Turkmen rebels to stop. It insists ISIL is not operating in that part of northern Syria and that Russia knows this. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
Well, Al Jazeera's diplomatic editor James Bays has more now on the situation from the United Nations.
The angry words and very different versions of events are coming from Ankara and from Moscow, but other countries watching this are very keen to de-escalate the situation because it remains a dangerous situation. They're keen too that this should be a dispute between Turkey and Russia, a bilateral dispute, not a dispute that widens into one between Russia and all of NATO. I'm told by diplomats here that they think it's interesting and worth noting the fact that this has not yet been referred to the UN Security Council. Russia is a permanent member of the Council. Any member of the Council can request a meeting. Turkey could also ask one of its allies on the Security Council to call a meeting. Both have decided not to do that for now, and I think that's because, according to diplomats, they believe that would be an escalation of things if it were to come before the UN Security Council.
The Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu has warned Russia not to attack ethnic Turkmen in Syria under the pretext of fighting ISIL. The Turkmen were among the first to take up arms against the Syrian government forces. Stephanie Decker reports from Antakya in Turkey.
Fatma was forced to leave her home in the Turkmen mountains north of Latakia. She says she had to escape attacks by both Syrian government forces and the Russian Air Force. More than 300 Turkmen families are said to have made the journey over the mountain in the last few weeks. They've arrived in an area close to southwestern Turkey, but the border is closed, so they are stuck here.
We hope we won't have to stay here for long, but at the moment we need nothing more than for our children to feel safe and secure.
The Turkmen are ethnic Turks who have been living in Syria, Iraq and Iran for centuries. Supported by Turkey, they took up arms against President Bashar al-Assad from the start of the Syrian conflict. Russia has recently been bombing this area, which borders Latakia, the ancestral homeland of Assad. There are no ISIL fighters here. The mountains are controlled by Turkmen fighters and other groups, including Jabhat al-Nusra, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda.
I am 40 years old. I was forced to leave my house due to unprecedented shelling. But when we arrived, we discovered the planes were bombing this area too.
Before Turkey shot down the Russian jet, Turkish government leaders had already expressed their frustrations with Russia and that it was wrongfully targeting the Turkmen.
It highlights the complexity of Syria's war with multiple international countries backing different armed groups. And in the aftermath of this major diplomatic incident where Turkey shot down a Russian jet just across the border from here, fighting in that same area has intensified. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera, Antakya.
I'm the leading state sponsor of terrorism.